perceive you as a person. No, it's only what you have on the inside about who you are. So, my life is not dictated by outside perception. It's only dictated by the things that I choose to do. Goldie Hawn has always been known as Hollywood's ray of sunshine. Bubbly, funny, radiant, and impossible not to love. But even America's golden girl has her limits. Now at 79, she's finally pulling back the curtain, revealing the 7 actors who made her time on set. Nightmare. Some were co-stars who turned toxic once the cameras stopped rolling. Others dismissed her talent, reducing her to nothing more than a pretty face, mocking her when she fought to be taken seriously. For decades, she kept silent. Today, the truth is out, and one name on this list nearly destroyed an entire film. Sean Penn. When Goldie Hawn attended a Malibu charity gala, she wasn't there for publicity. She had carefully prepared a speech on mindfulness and mental health, topics that mattered deeply to her. She wanted to use her platform for meaning, not spotlight, but across the room sat Sean Penn, restless and visibly unimpressed. Guests recalled Penn sighing loudly, rolling his eyes and muttering under his breath. Another celebrity wellness sermon. Goldie carried on, her speech filled with warmth and sincerity. But when she finished, Penn leaned back and said loudly enough for half the room to hear, she should stick to giggling. Goldie smiled through it, raised her glass, and left the event with grace. But later, alone in her car, she broke down, not from embarrassment, but from years of exhaustion. My whole career, she confided to a friend, and I'm still reduced to giggles by men who have no idea what I stand for. From that night on, she drew a line. No joint interviews, no photo ops, no pork smiles with Penn. He never apologized, brushing off his behavior as passion. To Goldie, it was cruelty, disguised as intellect. To this day, when their paths cross, she offers only cold civility before slipping away. It was never a tabloid feud. It became something worse. A wound that healed into silence. Dustin Hoffman. On paper, Goldie Hawn and Dustin Hoffman should have been allies. Both were Hollywood outsiders who broke the mold. She, the comedic blonde who proved she had depth. He, the unconventional leading man who redefined stardom. When they were paired for a screen test for a prestige drama, it seemed like the perfect match. But the test turned into humiliation. Goldie arrived prepared, determined to show she could handle serious material. Halfway through, Hoffman cut her off midline. "You're not connecting," he said flatly, before smirking at producers. She's still playing it like a sitcom. The nervous laughter in the room wasn't supportive. To Goldie, it was devastating. She finished the test with a smile, but inside she felt stripped of her dignity. That night, she told her agent, "I won't fight to be taken seriously by men who already see me as a punchline." She dropped out of the project the next day and vowed never to work with Hoffman again. Hoffman never apologized. To him, it was just the process. To Goldie, it was cruelty disguised as art. Instead of chasing roles to prove herself to men like Hoffman, she produced Private Benjamin, a comedy with teeth that earned her an Oscar nomination. She didn't need his validation. She built her own empire. Chafee Chase. When Foul Play 1978 hit theaters, audiences adored the pairing of Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. Their chemistry was delightful on screen, but off-screen things were far darker. Crew members recalled Chevy as moody, unpredictable, and openly hostile. He rewrote scenes to give himself more laughs, mocked Gold's lines, and sulked whenever she stole the spotlight. Goldie tried to smooth things over with her trademark warmth, but Chevy's arrogance was relentless. At one point, he sneered to a producer, "She's lucky to be in my orbit." Goldie confided to a stylist, "He's not funny when the cameras stop rolling. He's just cruel." By the end of filming, the two weren't even speaking off camera. Studios begged for a sequel. She refused every offer. She quietly placed Chevy on her personal blacklist. Unlike other grudges that soften with time, this one never thawed. Decades later, there are nostalgic interviews or warm throwback stories. Just silence. Warren Beatty. In the 1970s, Warren Beatty was Hollywood's storm. Charismatic, powerful, and scandalous, Goldie Hawn, the rising star of Sunshine, briefly crossed paths with him while filming Dollars in Germany. Goldie later admitted he was so handsome it hurt to look at him. But when she refused to become another notch in Beatty's long trail of conquests, his charm turned to sabotage. He whispered to producers that she was flaky and too lightweight for serious roles. Scripts that had been promised to her suddenly disappeared. Goldie confided to a friend, "He doesn't handle rejection. He punishes it." When they reunited for Shampoo 1975, the tension was palpable. Years later, at a Hollywood gala, Beatty tried to smooth things over. Goldie gave him a frozen smile, then walked away. That smile, one reporter wrote, could freeze hell. Bill Murray. Goldie Hawn had worked with some of the most spontaneous comedians in Hollywood. Robin Williams, Steve Martin, men who thrived on improv but respected boundaries. But when she was cast alongside Bill Murray for a late 8 South comedy, she quickly realized he wasn't like the others. At the very first table read, Murray arrived nearly an hour late, cracked jokes at assistants, and turned the script into his playground. Every scene became about him, with writers left humiliated as he mocked their work. Goldie tried to play along, but it shifted when he smirked at her mid-scene and said, "Why don't you try acting like you've done drama before?" The room erupted in nervous laughter. Goldie didn't laugh. She quietly closed her script, left the room at break, and never came back. By morning, she had pulled out of the film. He thinks unpredictability is genius. She told her team, "I think it's exhausting." Unlike others, she never softened. Studios tried to pair them again. Her answer was always the same: not interested. Kirk Douglas. Goldie Hawn always respected Hollywood legends, but she drew the line at being treated like decoration. With Kirk Douglas, it wasn't a blowout fight. It was subtler, quieter, but just as damaging. At events, Douglas showered her with old-school charm, hand kisses, winks, compliments about her looks. To outsiders, it looked gallant. To Goldie, it was suffocating. "He still talks to me like I'm the blonde in a bikini scene," she told a friend. On panels, he interrupted her. In introductions, he was called a visionary, while she was called the beautiful Miss Hawn. One day, after being cut off 3 times in 5 minutes, she calmly stood up and said, "I've said what I need to say." Before walking out, she later praised Michael Douglas, calling him respectful and modern. The contrast spoke volumes. About Kirk, she remained mostly silent. "Some men don't deserve a second act in your memory," she once said privately. B. Midler comedy, Goldie believed, was about rhythm and chemistry. B. Midler, however, was a hurricane, loud, fiery, and determined to dominate. When they starred together with Diane Keaton in The First Wives Club, 1996, audiences saw brilliance. Behind the scenes, sparks flew, whose jokes landed harder, whose close-ups mattered more, who was paid more. Tension simmered constantly. Goldie once muttered, "Comedy isn't just volume, it's timing." Bet years later admitted, "When you put 3 strong women in a room, you don't always get tea parties. You get sparks." Despite the tension, they delivered a classic. The crew members recalled the silence between takes, the sharp sidelong glances. Goldie later told a friend, "She's brilliant, but she leaves no oxygen for anyone else." Though they later reunited and laughed off rumors, the distance remained. Respect, yes. Friendship, no. Goldie Hawn's image has always been sunshine, but behind the glow, she endured dismissals, sabotage, and outright cruelty from some of Hollywood's biggest names. From Sean Penn's public mockery to Chevy Chase's arrogance. From Hoffman's humiliation to Batty's whispers, these encounters left scars, but Goldie didn't crumble. She thrived. She built her own path, produced her own films, and redefined her career on her own terms. These feuds didn't break her, they steeled her. So, what do you think? Were these clashes just the price of stardom, or do they reveal the darker underbelly of Hollywood? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories from behind the curtain.